Hey, what's up, team? Eddie Gray back at it again. Today, we're having a composer spotlight with composer, arranger, producer, David Ben-Porat. What's up, man? How are you?
What's up?
Man, look, we have to
And friend.
close friend. We got to talk about this guy's career. I really wanted to bring him on the channel because to me, he epitomizes what a modern creative is. Somebody who has a desire, who has a will, who has a laptop, and a high musical IQ, and of course, just the will to win. I just want to know if you could tell everybody what you're up to, kind of like what's on top, if you will, and then it's kind of go back and go into how you grew up, what kind of music you listen to, where'd you go to school, touring history, stuff like that. But what's
Yeah.
going on right now in your current life?
Right now, I am just like pitching songs that I'm finishing. I'm really enjoying working on actual songs with different artists, like people in our community that you know as well, like vocalists producing their songs and then getting them into libraries. I just got two through you into 411 library. I just got three that were accepted into Bank Robber, Rough Trade Publishing in New York. So like those are some big wins for me. And I'm also working on playing the angle of trying to do some composing for film as well and video. So I just got a gig composing an 8-minute soundtrack to an exhibit that's going to be in a museum. I don't know when the museum is going to open, but it's going to be in there.
So forgive me for not being clear about. So you're actually making the music for an actual museum exhibit? Is this what we're
So
talking about?
there's a video. So there's a video as a part of the exhibit. It's for I think they don't have a name for the exhibit yet, but it's about the history of Jews in the South of the United States.
This is
So
so
like, yeah,
yeah, sorry. This is real cool because these are things that you don't think about when you first start writing music and you aspire to be, a touring musician, a singer, or whatever. You think about going to a theme park, for example, right? And they've got music in the background. Who makes that music? Right? Where does that music
right.
come from? And so it's so fascinating that you got this great gig, and this is kind of the one of the biggest gigs you've ever landed, right?
Yeah, well, this company I kind of stumbled on. It was like a friend recommended me for one project, like maybe like 5 years ago,
Mm.
and there was like not a lot of budget for that. And then I had the contact. And then this was like a kind of the stuff that we talk about a lot in the HF Music Academy, like just making connections. I think one time I was going through some life crisis and I was starting to take some initiative. And I reached out to the contact that I had in that email. I was like, you know what? I'm going to just start making my own jobs. I didn't hear from the person, but then I scrolled and I saw that there was a telephone number. And so I called the telephone number in this email of someone who I hadn't spoken to in like 3 years. Turns out it was an office number, and that team that I worked on that first project with, they didn't exist anymore. So it was new people. And she said, you know what? It's a good thing I called. I have another thing for you, I think. And that was the project that I started working on, which happened to also be a museum exhibit in New Orleans. It's called the Sazerac House. And that was when I first started working with you and studying with you. That was about 2 years ago.
Got it.
And then when COVID hit, it's like feast or famine. And I just started emailing and people, and I got in touch with that woman again. She said, don't be afraid. I talked with her, caught up. It's all about relationships, like you talk, about. And so we were just talking, and I think I was just saying, like, look, I'm hurting right now, I need some whatever. And she said, you know what, don't be afraid, just reach out from time to time, and and see what's going on. And then she just put out like a blast to her colleagues. Like, I think it was, when did I start talking to this person? I think like around Thanksgiving, like
Right.
November. And this person was just like, yeah, so and so like put out like an alert to get in touch with you if we needed any composing. And I think I have something for you. And it's just like, and then I think my confidence has grown a little bit where I took a little bit of a stab, like pushing my price out there, and it worked. I mean, like, negotiation, and I'm just learning these tools. Like, that's always been my like discomfort, is negotiation, putting a price on my music, my worth. Like, I think for a lot of artists that's the case.
So this is cool. Let's get into this concept really quick, and then we'll go kind of back to the future. Money. So as an artist, as a creative, you also he's a phenomenal trombone player, string arranger, does all sorts of stuff. Mixing and mastering skills are bona fide. Um, uh, and to add to the mixing and mastering skills, just got two songs picked up by a major publisher in LA, and then just another one this week where you mix and mastered one of the students over at HF Music Academy. And so, yeah, this guy's on fire. In terms of money, because it's super important, obviously, what would you say has made the biggest difference from being somebody that doesn't get paid $0 or $5 or 10, but nothing that's substantial, and then to where you are now, where you're feeling much more capable, confident? Like, what happened? What's the in between here?
You know, I don't want to say that it's like I was at A and now I'm at Z. I think I'm definitely, it's a process, and I'm still like in the middle. I'm not like this confident, head
Right,
honcho.
but you are getting paid. I mean, you're
I am
making,
getting
yeah.
paid. Like, when is the question? Like that stuff. When you're dealing with big corporations, it takes time to get through the, how it is.
Mhm.
So I think the difference is, and this is through working with some other people on your HF team, that I had some sort of block, like ever since I started working with you, I've been putting in the work regularly. I've been like making tracks, different speeds. Sometimes it's like, 3 tracks a week. Sometimes it's 1 track a week, but moving forward, submitting, whether it be through you or whatever, I've been putting in my reps. And but like, here, let's stick with the working out metaphor. I've been putting in my reps, but if you don't eat right, you're not going to lose the weight, you know? So I was doing it, but through talking with like a member, like a coaching member of the HF Music Academy, I was realizing that I was telling myself that there was a block there. There was something I think there was something that was saying I don't deserve this money. Who deserves to make like $250,000 off of a couple of tracks, off of an album? Who deserves that? That just doesn't make sense to me. And I was dealing with I was trying to do some affirmations and stuff one day, and I felt I had this like out of body moment where I was like, I feel like a fraud saying this.
Mm.
And that was like my aha moment, where it's like, if I don't feel like I deserve this, it's never going to come, you know? And so it's like, it was the mentality switch, I think. And it's also accepting that there's going to be dips and there's going to be high moments. And I think that's the hard part for me to understand. It's not like a job that you do 9 to 5 every day and you walk home with your check every day. It's not a gig.
No,
It's,
the
it's,
lifestyle.
yeah, it's a lifestyle. It's a daily investment, and then some days you get the dividends on the stocks, and sometimes you don't. And it's like, we just got to push forward. And there's a phrase that one of the members said, like, he burned his ships a long time ago, and I kind of like, and it's true. I feel like I did that the last year or two. Is like, you know what, I'm in this, and so what do I have to lose except I have to push forward with this money thing.
Totally.
So.
Shout out to Chuck Hughes. Well, here, let's go back really quick, and then I want to play some music as we go along here because I have a very unique kind of angle on your story. Not the whole story, but just part of your story. I champion you. I'm a cheerleader. But when I first met you, you were just starting, and like I knew this guy's musically gifted. And by the way, when I call somebody musically gifted, it doesn't mean that if you don't have a musical IQ, you can't make it. Okay, you just got to figure out another way, right? You may not understand chords, but you can be a really dope producer. You may not have great mixing and mastering skills, but you can be a great publisher. Whatever the case may be, you have to find your way. So that being the case, when I met you, I was like, man, this guy's musical IQ is ridiculous. Um, and then we quickly went right into like having you learn logic. Remember that? And that kind of became the main thing. How did that help? Like picking the DAW apart, top to bottom. Um, what kind of a difference did that make? If you can kind of go back to that time, because
Yeah,
you're in a
it was a
different place.
perfect like intersection of everything. Because I actually started with Logic, I think maybe around 2004 or five. Like, this was before it was bought by Apple, when it was still eMagic. But because back then it was not user friendly, like, it was just I was lost, you know. I was just making like some cheap MIDI beats. It sounds like somebody who literally just picked up GarageBand, you know. And I think
Do you
over
still have
time,
those? Do you still have those by chance?
probably somewhere, but not
Okay,
not
okay,
for
yeah.
today.
There
That
you
that
go.
that's in our safe space conversation. But I'll show you one day. Um, Logic 7 was when I started.
Mm.
So like, you know, and I got intimidated by the software. And when I moved to here, I made my first album, but I did it in a studio with musicians. I spent like maybe 8 grand or something on that, you know.
Right.
And then I was like, I'm never gonna do this. And then I didn't see returns from it because I didn't know what to do with the album. You know, I didn't put it anywhere back then. I think I did that album 2009, 2010, you know. So then it was like I was like, I'm not gonna do this again unless I could produce my own album. And then I just was paralyzed because I wasn't learning the DAW and I wasn't doing anything. And it was just depression, you know, kicking in.
Right.
And then I think it was like just shortly before I met you where I resolved to like, you know, well, and then I was trying to, and then this is also important. I was trying to figure out like the perfect DAW to work on. So I was like messing around with Ableton a little bit, you know, like just
Traveling
trying to find
here.
the magic, whatever. Doesn't work, you know, because the problem was I liked Ableton, but the two things that I couldn't do in Ableton was the shortcuts. I just couldn't relearn them. They weren't working with me. And like mixing is just like, you know, I couldn't figure that out. It was like the
Impossible, yeah.
whole, it's a weird, you know,
Well,
see,
they don't have channel strips, right? Their channel strips.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like I was used to Logic. I was used to the workflow of Logic, like at least the shortcuts, you know, like using, you know, command and just navigating was easier. Um, so it was around the time that I met you where I just decided I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have to pick a lane. And it's so funny how this kind of like extrapolates to life, you know? It's like one thing, like just picking your DAW is the same thing as like doing music or like producing or, you know. So I was like, I'm gonna just do Logic and I'm gonna figure out a way to make those things that I like about Ableton move into Logic. Lo and behold, like 2 years later, they do this update and they're all the same. And my one of my best friends and I will still argue. He's like, man, I know you're a Logic guy, but let me tell you about this Ableton thing. And I was like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I'm a Logic guy. I'm gonna be a Logic guy. That's
Right.
it. You know.
Tattoo. Yep. Got it.
So yeah. So then I met you, or it was so funny. I found you through a blog, and I was like kind of stalking you a little bit. And I said I had like this is before I knew that you did like mixing, mastering, the whole kit and
Right.
caboodle. You know, like I was like, I'm gonna write 10 songs. I'm gonna find a way to get in touch with Eddie Gray. I'm gonna pay him for a lesson and see where I'm at.
Right.
And luckily, this course that I had bought offered also like a complimentary.
Yep.
If you paid a little extra, like it was a consultation. You
Yep.
know. And so I remember we talked, and I was just like, man, I got the music here. I just need to master Logic, and I need someone to teach me mixing and mastering. And you're like, and then we ended up talking for like, I don't know, what is it, like 3 hours? Like, I think I had to go to a doctor's appointment. You're like,
Right.
oh, just call me when you come back. And we ended up like talking forever. And that's when it kind of began, man. And it was like, we did like weekly lessons. And I would say, judging from what you've told me from your experience and just where I was and how I know people act in this industry with like guarding their secrets. I think that's becoming less. I think that's like not being, I think that's like because of people like you and even like when you look at YouTube and you see videos like with Oak Felder, who's like Grammy award winning, you know, he gives his secrets away. He doesn't care, you
Right.
know? So there's certain people where it's not like, this is my, you know,
Yeah.
my treasure. But we would just go at it. And I think that in combination with me being like enamored with the whole art and science of mixing and producing,
Right.
um, it just grew. And there's always, I love, you know, like there's so many hours that we spend together just through classes with you. And there's always one thing, one little nugget, you know, whether it be like shift return to name your tracks and then
Right.
tab and then it saves me 10 minutes, you know.
Total. Total. Every session, 10 minutes though. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, like just the little things or the velocity with the Spock, you
Yep.
know.
Exactly.
So
So real quick before we listen to a song, uh,
Did
the,
I answer
the
your question, by the way?
yeah, you did. Yeah, totally.
Okay.
The pleasure that it's been for me to see you grow, you can't even imagine because I already saw it. I was like, oh, dude, this guy's like, it's just a matter of is it going to happen in a week or, so it's been like a real delight to see you. And now you're just, I mean, in my opinion, you're about to soar on a whole nother plane. You're already flying, you're already doing your thing, but I think this is really the trajectory is just, gonna go way up. So
Yeah.
with that being said, let's listen to a song really quick. We're still gonna see each other. So do you want to give me a little preface here, something to say, Stiletto Rose?
Yeah. So that's a project that I did with another classmate of ours, Maggie Vagle. I've known Maggie like about 11 years now. When I moved to Chicago, she and I were in this band called Sidewalk Chalk for 10 years. She's still in it. I left the band about 2 years ago, just before I started working with you. And I brought her into the academy, and there was like a brief that we got that's like they were saying that they're looking for like female empowerment songs, like hip hop. They gave a lot of like examples. And the one thing that resonated with me was it was kind of like that early like Khalees, like my milkshake brings the boys to the yard, or like Gwen Stefani. I'm trying to think of that
Right.
Wind 'em Up. Is that the name of it or something like that?
Holler
And
back or something like that.
yeah, something like that where it's like marching band hip hop kind of stuff. And I was like, I really want to do this. And Maggie, I was just like, and Maggie was thirsty to like do stuff. She's like trying to get herself out there and find her lane, but it's not really her brand. and since she came to me with like a song that had like a hook already and stuff, so I was kind of like changing it up, so it wasn't 100% like my song from the roots. I would say like I made it a completely different song, but there was just like some of that. So I was like, well, why don't we come up with an alias? And so
Mm.
that's the Stiletto Rose thing.
Well, let's check it out. Give me a thumbs up, okay, once it plays. Here we go.
Don't start turning from disaster. Who are you to say one faster? You want peace of mind, but the fire burns still. But the fire burns still. But the fire burns still.
From burning.
Come on, king of bass. Please proceed.
I was gonna say, depending what the feedback is from this video, we can maybe one day do a peek in that session and kind of break down some of the stuff that people want to know.
If you want to see that session, hit us up in the comments. If we see something going on, if we see some noise, we will gladly bring him on. He will do his thing. Oh, there was so many parts. I don't even know where to go back, but you did a brilliant job. I call this guy the king of bass. I always feel like his bass is completely on point. How does it feel listening to that song right now? Just bass, from the beginning to when you started to right now. How does it feel listening to it?
Man, if I'm working on a song and when I'm checking the mix, like it's in my studio. There's one way. I first of all, I calibrate my studio how it should be, and then I turn it down. And if the mix sounds, I turn so if my knob should be at 12 o'clock, it's at like 10 o'clock, you know? And if the mix sounds clear and good, I feel already like it's working all right, because you know how you can fool yourself by just turning it up louder. So then I check it on like my, like my little Bluetooth speaker. And if I'm walking on my walk with my dog, which I do 3 times a day, and I'm listening, if it's like a half an hour to 45-minute walk, and if I hear that song the whole time, that means I'm into the song. So that feels like a good thing. And it just feels good to do it. Like, I'm proud of Maggie. I'm proud of her for like stepping into this character, it's fun. I love learning like this art, like to be able to, if I can just, I want to like something with vocals. I just like working, I think because they're more marketable, in the licensing.
And they'll monetize a lot more too.
Exactly. So I like the challenge. I like the art of production, because I couldn't do it 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I could direct people how to do it, but I couldn't do it myself.
Yeah. Well, there's been a couple people who were instrumental. And before we point some of your mentors and people who've helped you out, because I know there's been like a couple key people. And I think it's important to show people and tell people, because it's not one person, I think, that's going to completely change the game. Sure, you might have one person that really ignites you, but I think there's always a couple of different, kind of cornerstones that you can get in your life. But really quick, this guy, to be clear, is multifaceted in terms of the music he can make, and not everybody can do that. But have you surprised yourself with the amount of songs that you can write? Because you didn't always write tension music, for example, and now you can write tension music. So how has that whole process been? Because with music licensing, if you want to make money, you have to do other genres.
Right.
Yeah.
I like the challenge. It becomes a question of whether it's worth your time and money. But if you're starting out, there's no reason why not. And to figure out a way to do it. Just recently, I did some music for a different a different TV thing. Actually, I had to do like a couple of cues, and I gave her a spot. And she was like, "Oh, it's too serious." That took me like an hour to do the whole thing, And then she's like, "It's too serious. I'm looking for something more like this." And she hands me the introduction of the scene. She sends me a YouTube link, and it's The Wizard of Oz, and it's right before she goes into singing "Somewhere Over the Rainbow." It was a studio orchestra, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" So like, I took my whole budget that I got for that episode, and I bought the BBC, orchestra from Spitfire. Or like, then there was another one where I had to give her a soundtrack that sounded like the theme song. I don't know if you remember when we were kids, I Dream of Jeannie. Did you ever watch that?
Yeah,
on Nick at Night? So like, it's like that old like Henry Mancini kind of vibe, and that's also like just out there. So I was like researching some stuff, and I found this like Swing More by Project Sam plugin. Yep. And it's like big band, it's like film noir kind of stuff, and I just like the challenge of finding it. And with the tension stuff, it's kind of cool, because I was actually talking to another student, Chris Chrisman, beast of a musician.
Beast.
And he was just like, you won't ever look at me the same, but I use Damage from Native Instruments, for making these tension tracks. And I'm like watching an hour video about Damage, and it's literally just like pushing the button, and the track is made for you. Like, obviously you have to make music out of it.
And also there's kind of almost two versions of Damage. And I know this because I've read the manual. There's kind of the simple, press the button version, and then there's this like whole programming thing that you can get
Deep
into.
cut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super deep. So you got damage.
I bought when I was like looking on the search for how to make my life happen with the click of a button back before I met you. I got the complete ultimate. I think it was like 11 or 12 was one of those.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's kind of a must these days, right?
yeah, and it's funny because I regretted it because I wasn't using it at all. And slowly over the past 2 years, I'm like discovering a native instrument plug. Like each time I'm trying out something new, I'm pulling out like something from the native instruments
Yeah,
collection right
really
now.
quick, Chrisman, you got really to just touch on that. He was generous with his information, and I'm glad that he was able to kind of show you behind closed doors a little bit because we all have our little things that we do.
Dude, even with this track I did with Maggie, there's so many things where people are like, "Oh my god, how do you?" I'm splice, splice.
I know, but that's a half truth because the way you
Yeah,
do
but I'm
the
talking
mix is
about composition.
good.
I think like we get intimidated by the sound of something,
Mm.
and sometimes and like mixing is a thing for sure, and like delay. You need artistry in your affecting, but like I remember when I would hear songs, I'm like, well, I need to get like timpani player for this, and I need to get like little do you know, you could just cut up something that you found on whatever, like YouTube. It's all at your fingertips,
How heavily, if you can give me a base, I know that it would be impossible to give me super specifics, but how much do you rely on Splice? 20%, 10%, 30, your own plugins? Where's your divide? Depending on the
Oh
song, I
man.
know, but 30, 30,
Um
30?
for Splice, it's mainly only I've only done like one or two tracks where I used like a melodic element. Other than that, it's only like drums and percussion.
Which, by the way, just a quick side note before we talk about some of your mentors, um, I just made a video on my YouTube channel how companies like AdRev are ruining YouTube. I got dinged for a drummer loop. For you know how you can use drummer in Logic?
Yeah.
Somebody claimed it as it was their song. Anyway, I just want to throw it. Now they're doing the AI, the whole AdRev thing with drum stuff. So be careful. But anyway,
You can test them?
I absolutely it's ridiculous.
Okay.
But let's move on. Um, I want to talk about some of the people who've helped you. You don't have to give names or anything like that, but just
Yeah.
the role and kind of what you saw and how it opened up your eyes. Because I remember a couple distinct stories of people coming over, you going over their house. I know you have connections, and so tell me about how people have helped you and how they've opened up your eyes, your mind, how they've influenced you.
Man. Well, one of my best high school friends is like two-time Grammy nominated. We don't talk as much anymore right now, but he's on my vision board. um, and I really respect him. And he's the one that kind of got me into jazz and like hip hop and R&B, just like exposed my musical world in high school. His name is Jamil Roberts, J Proof, and he actually was a mentee of Oak Felder and like Pop and Oak. So he's worked with all the greats that you see like on the Academy Awards right now. Um, he opened my eyes as a kid, and we used to jam a lot together. And then when I got to college at Indiana University, I went there for 2 years, and there was like the
Music major?
African, huh?
Music major?
Music education, and I took some classes at the African American Arts Institute, and like those musicians all like also went on to be like I just was blessed to be at the right place at the right time and be around like musicians that went on to do amazing things. I guess hopefully me myself like I could be part of that clique.
Well, you're on your way, certainly.
And then yeah, just I moved to Germany on a whim. I was lucky to be offered an opportunity to finish my schooling out there, and um, there I learned because I was a smaller fish in a bigger pond in a certain genre. I was able to like really like hone in on horn arranging and recording and things like that. And some of my friends there are also like got huge record deals in Germany, and they're like producing big German acts that probably people here don't know. Um, and then here I did, through my band Sidewalk Chalk that I did with Maggie, like I worked with some producers here that, one's named Matt Hennessy, and he's done like Aaron Allen Kane and Twista, and like, really awesome. Learned a lot of stuff from him. Learned some stuff from the guy who produced my first record. His name is Greg Majors. And then just like my music colleagues, like my horn mate from Sidewalk Talk, he plays trumpet. Sam Trump, he's an amazing singer and producer, and like we just push each other and give advice. Like when I was mixing that full length record earlier this year or last year, I guess at this point, he would come over and just like listen through. We spent hours just listening through track and sharing information, and that's been a very fruitful friendship in many ways.
Yeah.
And then, but honestly, like I would say the biggest push came from you. Attitude, consistency, helping me believe in myself, and just mixing tools. Like, we did this every week, and like how many times, like when I first was starting out, did I send you stuff and you just like,
Here's what we're doing. Yeah.
just like constantly giving me like feedback and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I was blessed to have known you at that time,
But also what made a bigger and dude, I mean, I appreciate the acknowledgement, but honestly, what made the biggest difference was that you kept kept studying, like you just would not stop. You just were a machine for. I mean, I just remember you're like, oh, and then I watched this, and I started taking notes. And it's like you just kept going. I think that's really what was the difference. I'm sure I played, my part, played it well, but
well, I think it was also when I met you. I was coming out of a time where I knew how I was because of complacency, and
Yep.
I didn't want to be that anymore. And the only way I could do it was like dreaming and moving forward. And like I'm a big believer in energy in the universe, like opening up for you in prayer and spirituality.
Yeah.
But I think I was leaning too much on that as an excuse and not doing like what's the adage? Like someone goes to a farmer and says, "Man, like God must have really like given you a lot of rain this year. Your crop looks great." And he goes like, "Well, I tilled the farm, like
Right.
I put in the work too." And it's that. And it took me like working with you to realize the balance of work and universe working together, and I still am learning it. I think that's a lifelong thing.
Yeah. I mean, you've come so far, man. 2 years. Here, with that, just because you were talking about gratitude and being in the right space, let's listen to
It's like a radio show. Yeah, perfect timing. Segue.
Albany Park featuring Sam Hudgens. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah.
Give me a
So
little.
Albany Park is me and my really good friend. His name is Anders Nordstrom. He's got a
Shout out.
huge following. He's an incredible guitar player, probably one of the most requested in the gospel scene. He toured with like Lil Wayne for a little bit. He plays with this Grammy nominated gospel artist, Jonathan McReynolds. And we were I like his work ethic, and I like he embodies a lot of the stuff that we talk about. And guitar is my one weakling, like it's my Achilles heel. So I talked to him about like us getting together and working on something, and we just started jamming, and we did like two instrumental EPs. And then I said, you know what? I want us to be like a producer duo and start bringing in artists so we can start making a name in this way. And so Sam Hudgens is also quite a Chicago like hidden gem. And you'll hear it when you hear the song. His voice is just buttery. And I knew that I had started working on this track. We added the guitars, and I was like, I want Sam Hudgens on it. And so this is that song.
So to be clear, mix, mastered, and co-written by you.
And produced.
And produced. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So we're still looking at each other. Grateful, Albany Park featuring Sam Hudgens.
Fill up my days with you. I don't wanna feel you like I used to. Yeah, baby, I just wanna hold you close until the end of time. You're the one I sign my soul to, on the line. I promise that I'll never leave you. What broke us will be used to heal you. Pick up the pieces that fell through. And I notice I was up the minute I closed my eyes, pulled back the curtain and saw through. And this time I saw you. Yeah. Ooh. I just need your light. Grateful, grateful. I found
Told
life
you.
within these walls. Yeah. Lift my hands up to the sky. Let it be, let it breathe, let her be. When you step to me, I'll follow through. Follow me. It's my past, I'm full of light. Build these walls to tear me down. Build these walls to tear me down.
That's it. Just fades out.
Epically. Beyond. Beyond, ladies and gentlemen. Jeez, David Ben-Porat in the house. Is it a soft T or is it a hard T? Porat.
Quran? I don't know. It's Hebrew.
It's
So
awesome.
in Hebrew, it's a hard T.
So let's say Porat. Wow. I mean, the level of talent that you have around you. Real quick,
I'm very lucky. Yeah, and Chicago is amazing musicians.
you've already made it, man. You've already done it. You know, today we were chatting earlier. We were talking about the movie Soul, and remember the quote about the water, right? You're already there, man. You're already, you know, your
Yeah.
whole life and our whole life, really. I just kind of, you know, I came at it from a different angle. We've been looking for the ocean, you know, and we're already here. Like this is it, you know. Like certainly with that music, what you're making, and think about this, you're only gonna get better. You're only like, can you imagine just 5 years from now, your sound, your mixes, how they're gonna translate? Let's just call it 10. Let's just call it 10 years. Forget about the 20 mark and all that.
Mhm.
10 years, you're gonna be masterful on a whole nother level, dude. Anyway,
Fully treated acoustic studio. It's gonna have the whole.
well, you're already doing wonderful work without it. Really quick, instead of going to the future, let's go back really quick. I just
Okay.
kind of want to cover just a little bit about how you got into music. When did you fall in love with it? When did you know for certain this was something that you were going to be doing? Because I find that a lot of creatives, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of us find out from like really early on that this is what we're going to do. We don't know exactly how, we don't know exactly when, but we know this is what we want to do. And we want to spend our earthly existence satisfying and seeking. So like, what's your story musically speaking? How did you get started?
I uh, if I think about like where the seeds were planted, I definitely remember like loving. First of all, it was my first word,
Music?
Zuzik. It would start with a Z though, Zuzik. Yeah, it was the first one of the first two. It was either that or light. I know that for sure. Um, and I used to love like cassette tape. Like I know we had like a Thriller cassette tape when I was young, and I would put that on and dance to it. I think I stumbled into it though. It wasn't like, some people have parents that just listen. I didn't have a family that like listened to music all the time at home,
Oh,
you know? Um, I was like, I remember I was in elementary school and I just randomly like was assigned to sing like a solo in I think we were doing like Les Mis in the elementary school choir, and I like sang this one thing and everybody's like, "Oh, you can really sing." And I was like, "Cool." Moved on, And then my mom, I remember when my grandmother, like, they retired down to Florida like most New York Jews do, and they sold their house, and with it there was a piano. My mom's like, "I want the piano, and my kids
yes.
are gonna start learning piano." And I was pissed off because she made me quit karate. I was like, why would I quit karate to learn piano? you know Lo and behold, it's like the best thing she ever did.
Mom knows.
And then I was just like, I know that when I saw in middle school that you can learn band instruments, like wind instruments.
Got it.
And he lined up all the instruments on stage and played each one and demonstrated it. Everybody wanted to do saxophone or drums
Mm.
because Bill Clinton was president at the time, and everybody thought it was cool that he was playing saxophone. Um,
Well, it's also a
but then
popular instrument, right? Like it's just
it's a pretty powerful instrument too. So everybody wanted those, and then like this is like what I'm telling you about. I was a very passive kid, so like he was like, "I need trombone players," and I was like, "Okay," and that was just that's how I fell into it. And then I think I knew that music was my thing because when I graduated middle school, we had like a graduation ceremony because it was a
right,
big school.
right.
They had made a special award for me that year because I had sang in the choir, like was doing like there was a selected choir I was part of. I did like an orchestra thing one time, and I was in the wind ensemble. And like it was the first time that they had somebody that was like kind of doing everything. And then I kind of realized, I was like, you know what? I'm not an athlete. No matter how like I'm not gonna play football. I could be the football, but I can't play football. Like I can't play. And I just was like, you know what? I'm gonna just do this music thing. It's like it was where the gravity was taking me.
Yeah, yeah, you were
And
being
then and at the beginning, I was very excited when I got to freshman year of high school, etc. I was like really inspired. Like I was lucky to be around people that are like today really great musicians doing awesome stuff. Like there was a clique of like four of us, and we would all nurture each other. And like, it was required if you did band in high school, everybody had to do the marching band. So that was like every day from summer to winter, like from August to maybe November or something, you were doing marching band. And like there was 3 hours between when school got out to when practice started. So we were hanging out, just like jamming out. And I was the only one that could play piano. So I was like playing the chords for everybody while they were like practicing their jazz lines and stuff. And it was just exciting, man. And like, I would remember like, I would be on the phone with my high school friend and the one that I told you about who's like doing really well.
right.
And like he would be playing like John Coltrane over the phone, like, and I would listen to it on the other line, and I would share something with him, like a trombone player named JJ Johnson, who's really famous, like, and just that bug, I had that, and I remember telling my parents that I thought I was going to do music. They were upset at first, because
No.
well, they weren't upset. I think they were always encouraging me, and they wanted me to be happy, and they saw that I had the talent.
Right.
But I distinctly remember like a joke that my parents made, like, "Oh no, our kid's gonna be a starving Mozart," like talk about like trauma being planted in your head. But they just didn't know it. My mom was a teacher,
Yeah.
like same job, 37 years. She drove the same path to work and home every day for 37 years. My dad was an aerospace engineer, genius,
Mm.
really, and also artistically talented. Although he never pursued music, he had the ear.
Yep.
Like he could do any. Like I worship my father. He was so smart and talented. It was incredible. But yeah, I just remember doing a summer music camp 1 year, 2 years. I did one at Berkeley.
Check one, two. You seem to have frozen.
In that environment. And so like my other thought was I was going to be an aerospace engineer. I really liked says my interconnection is unstable.
I don't
Are
know.
you
We good.
we're good?
It's all solved. Go ahead.
They I just was like, dude, maybe I was really good at math and physics, and I was like, maybe I should go be an engineer like my dad, and I did a summer program at like Northwestern one summer. It was a music camp, and I was just like, this is what I'm made to do, like I don't know anything else.
Totally, totally.
Like, and went to college, like I said, for 2 years at Indiana University, and I had the bug there. It was like, just it's just like it was like American Pie on steroids, just band camp. It was just like music. There was a music library. There was always concerts, opera. I fell in love with opera, classical music, symphony, and that's where you just like I was like 17 to 19, just like the sponge,
Right.
just like I never learned orchestration. If college wasn't expensive, like as expensive as it is, I would go back and learn like orchestration and composition. But like everything I know is just from what I heard in my life and like dissect and like it's just storing it. And that's where it's so important what you were saying before about people like don't have to have the musical training. It helps,
Sure. Of
it
course.
helps to have the toolbox. Everything is about the toolbox, but you have to have the imagination. And everything that I draw upon is from my previous experience. Like if you want to write like cinematic orchestral stuff, there's Spotify for $11 a month. You can listen to Brahms, Beethoven, Mahler, just suck it in and like dissect the instruments and what they're doing,
Right.
and remember those sounds so that when you have to recall them. And that's I think also ties into what you were saying, like how you said I'm a diverse composer. I'm not just doing pop songs. Like I'll do, different things because I just tell someone, give me a reference, and then I can like analyze, and then it's like learning a language. You just hear the sounds over and over and over again, and then you can start to speak them in your own way. And that's what you do with logic and everything.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of my favorite things about this whole business is and I'll quote Cliff Martinez, my favorite composer of all time. He says, I like it when I get to like decide what the project is going to be musically,
Mm-hmm.
where he directs the sound. But he
Mm-hmm.
says I also like it when the project directs me.
Yeah.
He has is forced to, write something in the vein of, perhaps something he's not comfortable with. Or it's my favorite thing about this whole thing is like, hey Eddie, now we're doing Americana. Okay, we're doing Americana. And at this point, man, I don't feel there's any kind of music that I cannot touch upon, so long as I have the time, energy, resources, and budget, obviously.
That's what
Uh,
it is.
yeah.
And
But
especially if you have to, especially if there's someone else that is giving you the okay, like the thumbs up or the thumbs down on the other end. I
right,
want to know what they're expecting, because there's nothing that drives you more nuts as a composer when they say do your thing, but they know what they want, and then you do your thing and it's not what they want, and then you have to go back and do it over and over and over again. It's just not fun, in that sense. If that's the end goal, like they didn't want to pay for this originally, so
totally,
they ask you to do something like it. But it's also just about absorbing genre. Like I like this Southern Jewish thing that I'm working on. Like I don't know bluegrass music very well, but all day when I'm walking my dog, I'm just listening
yeah.
to Bill
Oh,
Monroe and like
I have no doubt that you're gonna nail it. There's
no, it's not that, but it's just like it's wonderful to like get the music in your veins a little bit,
Yeah, it's like a study. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So now that you're where you are, if you don't mind, real quick, like what advice would you give to the you that got started? So picture people are watching this and they're just getting started. Like, what kind of information would you relay to the you of 2, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, about where you are right now? Like, what would you say? How specific would you get?
That's a tough one, man, because I'm much happier now than I was 5 years ago. It's funny. Disclosure: I'm 38. I was talking to a friend of mine who just turned 33. I was talking to two different friends of mine who just turned 33, and they're super depressed. They're different artists. One's a musician, one's a like a videographer,
Mhm.
and they're feeling lost. They're wondering if what's I think there's something about that early 30s where this fear comes in, like, can I can this be fruitful? And you start to let the noise go on in your head. And I had to
And the
go,
world too,
huh?
right? And the noise of the world, your parents, your yeah,
All of it. Like, and you see your friends, like, who are lawyers or whatever, they have kids and all this stuff, and you're like,
yeah,
is that
houses,
the
yeah,
right
totally.
way? Is it for me? I don't know. And I think the best thing I can tell someone is, if that's gonna happen in your life, it's gonna happen. Like, but me picking to do this, just say, like, picking logic.
Hmm.
I'm gonna produce. I'm going to produce. And, like, just I think there is something about the old world, like, if you were born in, like, if you were in the 1800s or the 1700s, where you didn't have all these choices. You just had to wake up every day and, like, get food to eat and, like, put it on the table, sleep and do it again, you know? There's something about that, I think, that keeps people's sanity, and I think that's part of the reason why we have so much depression. There's just the palette. There's too many colors in the crayon box, you know. So pick a color and just draw with that. And you know what? If you pick red today and you're just doing it and you're doing red and red, and you're like, oh, maybe a little yellow would work here, and then you'll pick a little yellow and you'll
Mhm.
do it, you know. But just, like, do
Make something, do something.
narrow the road, because otherwise I went through a really dark time in I'd say almost like 6 or 7 years. I didn't celebrate my birthday. It was that dark.
That's cold. That's cold.
But you know what? Once I made a decision to
Right.
just do something, or once I took a step, you don't even have to make a decision, just step, because analysis paralysis, you
Yeah.
know?
There are so many
That's
options.
that's what I would tell anybody.
Trying to pick a movie these days, like forget about it.
That's exactly
If,
like
if DVP
I
does not
owe
referring a movie, I'm not watching anything. I'm good. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I need to, you need to tell me. I need to hear from you or from somebody I know that the podcast is good, and then I'm listening because there's just way too much going on.
Yeah.
Um. Okay, so then here, just indulge me one more time. So then now, based on this conversation, your future self, I want you to think of who you're going to be 10 years from now. Let's just call it 10 for now. We'll keep it nice and easy.
Yeah.
You've done everything that you've wanted to do. You set a bunch of aspirations, a bunch of landmarks. You hit them all. What do you tell yourself? We're just playing a game, obviously. What do you tell yourself? What does your future self tell yourself right now today?
Um, Stay connected, stay grateful. And when I say connected, I think spiritually. Um, because when I see people tank off,
Mm,
like, or tank, not take off, tank. It's because I think there's too much commotion, and then they lose that, and then all of a sudden they're blocked, you know, or they're in addiction, or there's something. And I don't want that. And I think that's also part of my story. Like, I think the reason I wasn't like Michael Jackson or whatever when I was in my late 20s or early 30s is because there's a maturity that I went through all these rocky things where I don't think I'll fall into the pits with, like, drugs or anything anymore, you know?
right.
And, like, I've done my share, you know, but, like, um yeah, I think the most important thing is to stay connected, because if I don't find that energy somewhere, the ideas will always come if I just believe they will.
Nice.
You know,
Love it.
there's no finite amount of ideas. That was another thing I had to learn. You know, like, not to hold on to all my eggs all the time.
Right.
You know, like, there'd be more. A chicken always laying eggs. So
Totally. Totally. This is
silly
fun,
metaphors.
man. This is fun. Let's listen to one more real quick. This one is called, oh, yeah, Funk Street Baller. So this one I particularly like because this is kind of a little bit earlier on. This is one of your first major placements with GoPro, right? A year ago.
Yeah, through North Star Media, thanks to John Septis.
So before we play, give me a little bit of the story, the brief, kind of how it all happened when you found out it got placed. What's up?
Wow. So I was working with you, and we were like on this formula of pitching, pitching, pitching. My friend Todd, who I guess he's the only one we didn't play a song with. Poor guy.
I'll have him on here soon enough.
Yeah, he's good.
Actually, maybe both of you. That'd be cool.
He connected me with this guy out of Michigan, North Star Media. John is his name. He was really nice and helpful. And he said, like we usually just license, or we usually just take on artists, like bands, like kind of the stuff that we've been playing. But he said sometimes people are looking for like hip producer kind of stuff. So these are the kind of flavors of the moment that he sent me. And so I just was like working at it, and he would say like, I don't know, he kind of like coached me a little bit. He definitely went back and forth with me and cared. And I gave him 4 songs, and he was like, these sound great. He took them. I never heard from him for like a year. I didn't follow it. I was like, this is the dumbest thing. I'm still today trying to find time to create new songs for him. Like whatever. Didn't hear from him, and all of a sudden in the middle of COVID in June, I get an email. He's like, oh man, I meant to tell you, like, or an email. He's like, good news. We got this placement with GoPro, and here's the link, and here's your the video with your song in it and stuff. So check is on the way. Boom.
I love it. Here we go. Funk Street Baller. Here we go.
That Logic slowdown will ever get old. It doesn't, right? I mean, I use it so much, and I'm like, maybe like 10 years from now, I'll tell myself, like, stop using this.
Like, that's it. Stop doing this.
That's what I'll tell myself 10 years from now.
Man, GoPro, that is awesome.
It was fun, and they did a great job. It's a really cool video. I have it on my Vimeo.
If you send me that, I'll put it in the description. Damn, man, it's just I'm just kind of looking at your life right now, kind of from a distance, and seeing everything going on. This is I'm glad we're doing this. I'm glad we're kind of capturing this moment. We'll be able to look back a year from now and kind of laugh about it. But yeah, what else, man? Anything else you want to throw out there? Any other bits? So Dave's DVP's been working with us for the past year over at HF Music Academy. I just thought it'd be good to bring him out because what ends up happening is that guys like him end up inspiring other people. And so, yeah, if there's any other information or tips or anything you want to throw out, I mean, now's your chance.
Man, no, I think we covered a lot, man. I appreciate like all the tools that you've given me and beyond. And I think like, one of the big things is you always said is like, just you can teach a man to fish, or no, how's it work? Teach a man to
I can give you a fish.
What's the adage?
I'll give you a fish.
Something like that. You teach a man to fish, but he's got to do it himself. And that's like a big tool. And I think a lot of people, we can get, there's a lot of online resources out there that's overwhelming. But, there's no magic trick to it. It's just doing it,
Yeah.
And I think we've covered that. So I think there's a lot in here if people make it through the whole video.
Well, dude, thank you for your time. again, the reason that we decided to do this is we want to inspire people, want to help people. It's possible. It's possible. It may not look exactly the way you thought it did, but can you make money? Yes. And will we make more? Heck yes. So anyway, with that being said, if you want more information, I'll put some info in the description, and look out for DVP 2021. Let's have some fun. Let's sign out, my bro. And
Right.
cool. See you guys later. We out. Peace.